got a bit of a treat for you guys today. Today, we got some nice juicy propaganda from Nickelodeon. That's right. This ain't coming from Fox News. This ain't coming from CNN. This isn't coming from some journalist website. No. Today, we're going to be going over a video that I found last night on how kids can spread the good word about voting and climate change and Black Lives Matter. And at the end, the kids get to decide who's going to be the next president of the United States. You know, the kids, the quote-unquote kids, get to decide who Nickelodeon wants to be their next president. Will it be Orange Man or Sleepy Joe Biden? This is so fucking stupid. I love this shit. I think you guys are gonna love it too. But anyway, let's go. Let's fucking go.
Election day may be 1 week away, but tonight, the kids are picking the president. Welcome to Nick News, Kids Pick the President. We've got host Keke Palmer breaking down the facts about...
Oh boy. Oh boy. A Nickelodeon star that hasn't been relevant in over 10 years is hosting this fucking spectacle. Oh boy.
U.S. presidential elections and talking to real kids about the issues they care about the most. We'll also hear about how important it is to vote with a little help from our friends DJ Khaled, Liza Koshy.
Oh boy, a rapper that no one cares about and a bunch of literal nobodies are gonna spread the good word on why voting is totally cool.
Steph Curry,
Ooh.
Jace Norman, Sky Jackson, and many more. And don't miss the premiere of an all-new exclusive track from Nick's very own Young Dylan. It all starts right now.
Oh, you thought those fucking bunch of nobodies and literal kids encouraging you, or in this case the parents, to vote was cringy enough? Just wait, at the end of this fucking shit show, we're gonna get a little black kid to do a fucking rap song on why you should go out and vote, yo. Oh my god. Oh, this is gonna be a trip, I'm telling you.
Our economy is booming, wages are rising, poverty is plummeting.
Welcome to Donald Trump's world. Up is down, lies are the truth.
We are going to have a victory that's even greater than 2016. Today, the World Health Organization officially announced that this is a global pandemic.
We have not seen job losses like this probably since the Great Depression.
How much you want to bet none of these kids know what the Great Depression is? I don't think they do. A minute and 11 seconds into this fucking video, we're already getting Black Lives Matter shit. I love it. I fucking love it. Just straight out of the ballpark with this. Just straight out of the fucking ballpark with this. A minute and 11 seconds into this fucking video. And what do we get? Black Lives Matter chimp outs. Fucking love it.
President, I will always stand with the heroes of law enforcement.
Does anyone believe there'll be less violence in America? Donald Trump is reelected?
We are involved in a non-violent revolution.
We're saying to people that the vote is precious.
I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
The people of this country want and demand law and order.
You can't fix the economy until you fix the COVID crisis.
How will the government help make the world a better place?
On November 3rd, you're watching and you see who won the election. And I think we're going to do well.
Show up and vote. You will determine the outcome of this election.
We allow people to change the world.
Vote, vote, vote.
I'm Keke Palmer, and you're watching Nick News.
Hello, literal has-been.
Kids pick the president. By now, you'll probably notice that a lot of the adults around you keep talking about one thing: the 2020 presidential election.
Really. That's the one thing all these fucking kids' parents are talking about. They're not talking about anything else. They're not talking about paying bills, or how work was, or whether or not we'll be able to go out to the beach this weekend. Mommy's not... Daddy's not yelling at mommy because daddy caught her with the fucking UPS man again. It's just the 2020 presidential election. Okay, sweetheart, whatever you say.
But it can get pretty confusing. From the debates you see on TV to the conversations you overhear on the playground. Well, these days, it's more like a Zoom. But you get it. It's a lot for me, too. So we decided to break it all down and create a space where you could have a voice. I know a lot of you might not be...
And by you, the children have a voice, have a space. You mean what you guys decide. You're gonna find out. You're gonna find out just how legitimate this kids voting for the next president thing really is. Especially towards the end. Now get ready for that. Because when I first saw this shit last night, I couldn't fucking believe it. But you're gonna see what I mean towards the end of this fucking video. Anyway, let's continue.
Able to vote right now, but that doesn't mean your voice doesn't count. In the next hour, we're going to explore the issues that matter the most to you. You'll hear about the history of voting, the new normal in the era of COVID-19, racial equality, the environment.
That's right. They're gonna educate these kids on BLM. They are. And I can't fucking wait. Because that was my favorite part of this entire shit show.
And more. And we'll tell you everything you need to know about the sometimes complicated voting process. And since we also asked kids to pick a president, you'll find out who the winner is. So, let's get into it.
Oh boy.
I love voting. It's honestly one of my top 5 favorite things to do. And the best part is, I can do it from my own home. Unfortunately, it hasn't always been this easy. I promise I'll tell you all about it. But first,
What is voting anyway?
voting is a part of a system called democracy, where people voice their opinions and it shapes the outcome of a decision. It's basically...
And when people don't get their way, they throw literal temper tantrums and burn everything to the ground. At least if Orange Man wins. And we don't want that because Orange Man's bad. Because Orange Man's a fascist. If you don't know what a fascist is, just wait for this next Nickelodeon election special in 2024. Where we get to tell you all about what fascism is, why it's bad, and what Antifa is, and why they're good. Oh, you think I'm joking now? You wait. In 4 years, when they do this shit again, in 4 years, they're gonna talk about Antifa, and why Antifa are cool, and the good guys. You wait.
a fancy, official way to express yourself. Tell people what you want. And when a group of people vote between 2 or more different options, the option with the most votes wins.
Sometimes you get who you vote.
Not always. It's usually whatever the third party. The people that are really in control. It's whoever they decide. People on the, in the red square section and the blue triangle section, their vote doesn't really matter. It's whatever people in the golden circle, it's whatever they decide. Okay?
Before, sometimes you don't.
Now, you can vote for something as simple as choosing between having Krabby Patties or spaghetti tacos for dinner, or for something a little bigger, like who could be class president, or who should receive the Kids' Choice Award for favorite female singer, actress, television host. Pretty cool, right?
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, give me attention, Nick. Give me attention, give me a job, Nick. Give me a job.
Well, nothing is cooler or more powerful than voting in a U.S. election. Because that's when we get to decide who our leaders will be. And no, I'm not talking about your parents. Oh, and something else. During elections, we also get to vote on some of the actual rules themselves. Seriously. They have fancy names like propositions or ballot measures. There are different types of U.S. elections. But the biggest one, and the one we're here to talk about today, happens every
And the one you people really care about, let's be real here.
4 years. That's the general presidential election, where Americans get to choose the next president and vice president. Well, sort of. Us, plus a special group of people called the Electoral College, get to pick the president. But that's a whole different topic that we'll get into later. So now that we know what voting is, who's actually allowed to do it?
Fun fact, when they actually do get to the whole electoral college thing, it's only brief. You know, we really gotta hammer the point home that, you know, the environment and Black Lives Matter is more important than teaching kids the history of the electoral college. Let those fucking teachers do that shit.
All U.S. citizens 18 years or older who are registered to vote.
Legal United States citizens that are 18 years or older. Legal. Okay? Not illegal. Not illegal. Legal citizens. Just gotta remind people that there are some people in this country that don't belong here. Of course, they don't give a shit.
But that wasn't always the case. For a really long time, many groups were excluded from voting, here in the United States.
He's a balloon dog come to life. Sit, Squeaky. He does lots of tricks. Roll over, Squeaky. He's the balloon dog who's pumped to play. Squeaky's battery's not included.
Back in 1789, when the U.S. was still in its early days, the Founding Fathers wrote a fancy, super important document called the Constitution. The Constitution lists every American's rights. Now, today, the Constitution gives Americans the right to vote free from discrimination. But in 1789, that decision was left to the states. And back then, the states decided only white men 21 years or older who owned property could vote. Eventually, all white men who were old enough could vote. But it wasn't until nearly 100 years later, in 1870, after the end of slavery, that all men born in the U.S., despite the color of
And this is now going to be the part where Kiki Palmer artistically screeching that black people didn't get the right to vote until them stupid white people get to vote first. Why can't I?
skin could participate in elections. So basically everyone except women and Native Americans could vote. That left out more than half of the population. It meant that your mom...
You hear that? In 1870, women and Native Americans weren't allowed to vote. So in 1870s, white men, black men, Latino men, the Asians, they could vote. But natives and women, no. Just figured I correct that last part there before you start complaining that, you know, the system is racist and shit. There, Kiki.
Your grandma, auntie, and even I wouldn't have been able to vote. Well, those conditions didn't last very long either. See, the very little progress that was made quickly disappeared. Around the 1880s, black men in the South were once again denied the right to participate in elections, thanks to a set of racist, unfair rules called Jim Crow laws. Jim Crow laws claimed to create separate but equal rules that were definitely not equal for black and white Americans. But what they really did was deny black people rights and freedoms simply because they were black. And when it came to...
They really want to hammer this point home that black people have been oppressed in America since day fucking one. And you're gonna get a lot more of this shit when we get to the BLM section. Just you wait.
Voting? That's exactly what happened. Black Americans who wanted to vote had to first overcome unfair obstacles like paying poll taxes, passing reading and writing tests, and even guessing the number of jelly beans in a jar. And because of centuries of slavery...
Okay. Can you imagine for just a moment? You're a black guy. And this is like the fucking early 1900s. Like, we're saying, okay, like 100 years ago, 1920. You're a black man in the South getting ready to vote in the fucking 1920 presidential election. And you get up to the fucking booth. And you're getting ready to vote. And before you can vote, you have to guess the number of fucking jelly beans that are in the fucking jar. And if you get it right, you'll be able to vote. If not, you're out the door. I know it's fucking ridiculous. But the way Kiki is talking about this shit kind of makes it sound like this shit actually fucking happened. It actually makes it sound like at some point the Jim Crow laws decided to fuck with black people. And they were like, okay, you want to vote there, Mr. Black Man? Guess how many fucking jelly beans are in this jar here? You get the right number, you get to vote. You don't get the number right, you get the fuck out of here.
And racial discrimination, all of this led to tons of voting barriers for black Americans. See, black people in the U.S., especially those in the South, weren't fully freed from slavery until 1865.
Gee. I wonder why black people weren't free from slavery in the South until 1865. I wonder why. I wonder what truly boggles the mind when you come to think about it. I wonder what happened, prior to 1865 that wouldn't allow black people in the South to be free of slavery. I wonder what happened. I wonder what happened. I wonder what might have happened which prevented black people from being free from slavery until 1865. Really makes you think.
And when they finally were freed, they were basically left with nothing. They had no property, barely made any money, and most had never been taught to read or write. This meant Jim Crow laws made it nearly impossible for millions of black people, millions of Americans, to vote. But some progress was made in other areas. In 1920, white women were finally allowed to vote. Decades later...
Holy shit. Just that alone. You could tell she was kind of seething a bit, In 1920, white women were allowed to vote. White women were allowed to vote. Oof. You could tell Kiki was just seething right there. I love it.
Native Americans, the people who were literally here first, began to receive the right to vote, state by state. Fast forward to 1965, past decades.
Fun fact, the Native Americans actually got the right to vote before women. Just figured I'd correct your little history lesson there, sweetie.
Of oppression, unjust laws, and the blood, sweat, and tears of many black Americans, including civil rights activists Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, and John Lewis. President...
What about Malcolm X? What about Brother Malcolm? What about Brother Malcolm? What about Malcolm X? You're not going to mention him? What about the Kennedy brothers? I think they did a whole lot more for, black people rights or black voting rights than fucking Rosa Parks ever did. Because seriously though, JFK, he was the president. Bobby Kennedy, his brother, he was Attorney General. They did more for allowing black people the right to vote than Rosa Parks, who literally didn't want to change her fucking seat. That's all Rosa Parks ever did. She didn't want to change her fucking seat. She didn't want to get her ass up and move on over to get so some other guy could sit in her seat. That's literally all she's known for. The fact that we have this fucking worship this bitch as a god, all because she didn't want to change her seat, it's fucking ridiculous. But no, seriously though, Rosa Parks did more for black people than fucking Bobby and JFK ever did.
Lyndon B. Johnson signed the Voting Rights Act of 1965 and gave not just black Americans, but all non-white, English-speaking U.S. citizens the right to vote. Think about that.
Okay, so in 1965, everyone that spoke English got the right to vote. So, the Mexicans, the Latinos, and the Asians, prior to 1965 apparently, never got the right to vote. Okay then, whatever you say, honey.
1965. That really wasn't that long ago. Most of our grandparents were born before then. Most forms of voter suppression have become illegal, but there are still some laws that continue to make voting difficult for Americans who are black, brown, and lower income.
Oh boy.
Like in 2013, when portions of the Voting Rights Act were struck down and made it harder for some people to participate in elections. They did things like cut down on the number of places people could go to vote, or required voters to show ID cards.
Okay. In the United States, at least, you need voter ID to buy a pack of beer. You need voter ID to buy a pack of cigarettes. You need voter ID when you want to go get a job. You know, you need photo ID or a driver's license to operate a car. You need a voter ID for all of these things. Why shouldn't you have a fucking photo ID to vote? Seriously though, you need ID to buy beer and smokes and all this other shit. You should have ID to fucking vote. But oh no, we can't have that because requiring people to show their ID to let the poll workers know that the person voting is indeed an actual legal United States citizen. That'd be racist and shit, and we can't have that.
At the polls. These changes have since been sent back to Congress to repass, but nothing's happened yet.
That's because it never will.
Now you might be thinking, but I'm not even old enough to vote yet. How does any of this affect me?
It doesn't. The fact that they're even allowing this to be on TV is just fucking propaganda. It's not like it's gonna matter anyway. See, they're not here to manipulate you. They're here to manipulate your parents. That's what's really going on here. Your stupid ass isn't able to vote yet, kid. But your fucking parents are. That's what the special really is for. They're trying to brainwash you so you can brainwash your parents into voting for Sleepy Joe.
Well, do you go to school? Parks? The public library? All of those places are controlled by the government, by the people who adults vote for in elections. Which means that even though you can't vote yet, the things being voted on still have a direct impact on your life. So don't wait until you're 18 to get involved. Get out there now. Inform yourself. Express your opinions. And let your voice be heard.
I'm not gonna lie. I actually kind of want to see a bunch of fucking kids just get themselves woke on politics. Because I'm not gonna lie, it would literally warm my heart to see a bunch of fucking 8-year-olds with MAGA hats and tiki torches just walking up and down the school playground screaming, "Jews will not replace us." That would be so fucking hilarious and beautiful if that were to happen.
Bless up, this is DJ Khaled, and I want to send my love to the young
Hello, literal nobody.
world out there. Vote. DJ Khaled and the Khaled family want the whole world to vote. Young world, let's go.
You guys have to vote. If you are watching this, go vote. If you are not old
No thanks, wannabe gay porn star.
enough to vote just yet, make sure your parents go vote.
And when they say, of course we are, we love choosing our future, then you say, okay, how do I do that when it's my time to vote?
Every vote counts, so get out there and make your voice heard.
Remember, parents, these literal nobodies are telling you to vote. So go and fucking vote. It's not for Orange Man, though, because you know Orange Man bad.
COVID-19 is a massive issue this election, with both President Donald Trump and Vice President Joe Biden. It was a big part of the first...
I love these fucking pictures they got for Biden and Trump. Trump's just fucking standing there, you know, he's wagging his finger. It's like he's wagging his finger at the dog that just shit all over the carpet. And Biden looks derpy and confused, has no idea what's going on. Love it.
Presidential debate. And many parents quickly realized they had a lot of explaining to do to their kids.
Bernie Sanders.
Everything he's saying so far is simply a lie.
Joe, you're the
I
graduated last in your class.
Folks, do you have any idea what this clown's doing? Would you shut up, man? It's hard to get any word in with this clown. You're the worst president America has ever had.
Are you guys excited? I said, are you guys excited? Yes!
Okay, let's just go over the roster real quick and what we got for kids. We got 2 little white boys, 1 white girl, a Spanish, an Asian, and a black girl. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oof, you know, if this was fair, there'd be 3 boys and, 3 girls, but, women power. Women power, gotta weed out the white boys.
Emma, how would you describe how each candidate...
And of course they go for the fucking Mexican chick whose mom is probably not legal.
They acted during the debate.
They acted like children, like literal children that were doing a class debate, but it's really...
You're gonna hear this a lot throughout this segment, that both Donald Trump and Joe Biden acted like children. This is one little part in the middle of this that really makes me laugh. Really makes me laugh. Anyway, let's continue.
Just bickering over each other and not letting each other speak.
Oh, that's such a good point. Miguel, how would you describe how each candidate acted during the debate?
Like Emma, I'm also gonna say they acted like children because...
See, and here we now see a little cuck white boy, number 1, agreeing with his Latinx female master here. Not surprising there. Can you just imagine what this fucking kid would... Can you just imagine the fucking uproar this kid would be like if he said Donald Trump totally owned Joe Biden? They boot him out. They boot him out in a heartbeat.
Just like a 5-year-old, like a 3-year-old, they were just shouting at each other. They wouldn't let each other talk. Like, it's like, the spotlight's mine. No, it's mine. Mine.
Honestly, the debate feels like a reality show. It honestly made me feel like I could be the president because I could state my...
A literal 10-year-old brat who hasn't hit puberty yet, who doesn't know shit, who probably still thinks Santa Claus is still real, honestly thinks she could be fucking president based on watching the first debate that happened between Trump and Biden. Just let that sink in. Let that sink in. This 10-year-old brat thinks that she could be president based on that shit show that was the first presidential debate. I guaranteed she'd fucking lose. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. If this bitch ever runs for president, I'm gonna be the one that faces her. I swear to God. I'm taking you down. I'm taking you down, Ching Chong. You're going down, Ching Chong.
Points. Yeah, because
You can be the president, though. You can be the president.
Yeah, because I could state my points more clearly and more maturely than the presidential candidates did.
I know 6-year-olds that are more mature than that.
Yeah,
they were interrupting each other and making rude comments, which is not mature at all.
it was chaos.
And Zoom calls can be quite chaotic, but even you guys aren't even stepping over each other in the Zoom call. I'm going to ask you, Zoriel, what would happen if you ever spoke to your parents in the way that the candidates just spoke to each other?
Well, fortunately, I will never find out because
X'd it out.
my parents have always taught me to be respectful and responsible for my own.
Okay, I'm gonna be the first one to say it. This girl has never met her daddy because her daddy's not there. And she's just getting raised by her mom. That's it.
Actions, and I have 2 younger sisters, so I have to set a good example. And if I do something good, they'll do something good. But if I do something bad, they'll do something bad, and that won't be good at all.
I love that you know that and that it's important to you to be an example, which leads me to a question that I want to kind of get.
I guarantee this fucking black kid is a massive fucking cunt in school. I guarantee fucking it. This little black girl here is the biggest fucking bitch in the school. I guarantee it.
To all of you guys, I guess we can start with Delaney. What qualities do you look for in a leader?
I definitely look for honesty, someone who's honest about the issues that are affecting us at this time.
Yeah, politicians being honest. Oh, that'll be the day.
Someone who's kind, who cares about our country, and someone who cares about the issues that I care about, such as like global warming, equal rights, and finding a cure for COVID.
I would look in a leader for being, brave, and I think they were both being super disrespectful to each other, and I think it's a little bit disappointing to me because one of those people are going to be our president for the next 4 years. They weren't really showing responsibility for being president in the debate.
Yeah, after watching that, it's kind of scary to know that one of those 2 men are going to lead you.
This is the hard.
Well, Donald Trump's been leading you for the past 4 years already, and you weren't throwing a tard fit then. So why the fuck are you complaining about this now? Why? You didn't care the past 4 years when Trump was in office. You ain't gonna give a shit you ain't gonna give a shit 4 years later after this. So why the fuck are you complaining that, Orange Man and Joe Biden weren't being responsible and it's scary that one of them will be president? Yeah! Just why? You're kids! You're not supposed to give a shit about this right now!
Part, guys, when you do get of age, is accepting that you're not going to love everything one person says. There's always going to be some things you agree with and some things you don't. The hard part is making the choice of what you...
And if you disagree with something that your opponent says, what you need to do is you need to start running around with communist flags and beat the shit out of people that disagree with you and burn down malls. Because that's what you do when you find out someone disagrees with you. You need to beat the shit out of them and then burn down their homes.
Can live with and what you can't. I want to bring in a child, adolescent, and family psychologist, Dr. Jennifer Hartstein. Dr. Jen, when you...
Okay, let me bring in our next guest. Lesbian Karen. Welcome to the stage. Our child psychiatrist, Lesbian Karen over here. Oh boy, this should be fun.
You're in, use the words rude, disrespectful, mean, What does that tell you?
It tells us that the kids are listening, right? I mean, we instill in these great kids. I've been listening to this conversation, and everybody's giving so much great feedback and input, and we're teaching them to be respectful. And then we have leaders who are not as respectful and who are not showing those same qualities we want to.
Why do I have a feeling that somewhere on this chick's Facebook profile there is a literal, cover photo that says "We're all Antifa"? Call me crazy, but I think there's a pic of somewhere where, at the very least, somewhere on her Facebook, the words "We're all Antifa" is just somewhere on her Facebook profile. I guarantee it.
A kind of embolden in the children in our lives. So we need to start to think about what messages do we need to counteract as adults in the lives of these kids, because some of the leadership qualities that they're observing aren't really what we want them to grow into.
How can parents, you think, objectively discuss the leadership in our country?
We kind of had this master class for a lot of the adults of what not to do, right? Of how to build towards, how do we have healthy conversations without being disrespectful and stepping on one another's toes? Or how do we engage with one another in a healthy dialogue instead of kind of bullying and anger?
So our goal is to create a safe space to hear from some kids, to find out what's been on their minds and how.
Safe space. She literally just said safe space. She literally just said we have to create a safe space. Holy shit. Fucking beautiful.
They're dealing with the new normal. What word would you use to describe the new normal of virtual learning, wearing masks, social distancing, just the world today? So I'm going to go around the room. I'm going to ask Emma first.
So I think a word to describe everything that's going on right now is disconnected, because everything like social distancing and wearing a mask and having to use technology.
Okay, so this is going to be the part where they talk about COVID-19. Spoiler alert, these fucking kids hate it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can skip just a little bit so we can get over this fucking segment. You're good? Yeah.
Think the presidential election is decided by who receives the most votes, but ultimately, it's decided by the Electoral College.
What is the Electoral College?
The Electoral College is a group of people made up of voters, known as electors, that represent each state. Every state is given a number of electors that is equal to the 2 senators it has in the U.S. Senate, plus the number of members it has in the House of Representatives. Because the number of representatives it has is determined by a special population-based formula, states with larger populations means more electoral votes. California, for example, has a population of...
Holy shit, California went red. That's the first time in my fucking life that it's done that.
39.5 million and has 55 electoral votes, while Connecticut, with a population of 3.5 million, has 7 electoral votes.
How does the Electoral College work?
There are 538 electors in total, and they each cast their own ballots for the president. In order for a candidate to win, they must receive at least 270 electoral votes. So even if a presidential candidate wins the popular vote, but doesn't get at least 270 electoral votes, the other candidate will be declared the winner.
Wait, what? Where?
I love that fucking part. I love that part when they fucking show a picture of Donald Trump's face and that little cartoon kid's like, wait, what? Fucking love it.
Where did the Electoral College come from?
When the framers of the Constitution were deciding how the president and vice president should be elected, they worried about a lot of things, like whether the northern states would outvote the southern states because of the North's larger voter population, or whether everyday people would get too much power and Congress should choose the president. So to help address these concerns, the framers decided to create a system where each state would receive a specific number of electors who would pick the winner. But the southern and northern states couldn't agree on how many electors each state should have. Mainly because, at the time, 40% of the population in the South were enslaved black people who couldn't vote. So after a long...
Oh boy, here we are again with my black people were slaves!
Back and forth, for this and other reasons, the Constitution writers decided to make a key compromise, where even though enslaved people were not allowed to vote, they would be counted individually as 3/5 of a person. Eventually, the 3/5 clause was repealed, but the Electoral College is still used in U.S. presidential elections today.
You might not be old enough to vote, and if you're not, you got a mama, you got a daddy, you got an uncle, you got a cousin. Tell them to vote.
Listen to Tyra Banks now, kids. Listen to Tyra Banks now. What you want to do is you want to artistically screech and throw massive temper tantrums and cry. And demand that your parents go out and vote. Preferably not for Orange Man, because Orange Man is bad. But continue to whine and cry and stamp your feet and demand that your parents or anyone 18 or older that you know goes out and vote. Just not for Orange Man, because Orange Man is bad.
Punch in things that you may be concerned about and read. And then ask your parents.
They literally got fucking Usher. They literally got fucking Usher. No kid in this fucking day and age knows or even cares who the fuck Usher is. What the hell is this shit?
Hey, are you gonna vote?
To have our voice heard, we must vote. In order to do that, you have to encourage your parents, your family.
I have no idea who this bitch is, but I really wouldn't be surprised if this thought has an OnlyFans account. I really wouldn't be surprised if she does. I swear.
Go out and vote. Stay educated, stay informed, and big year. Let's go.
Oh God.
What are you going to do for climate change?
My grocery store is still using plastic bags.
Why isn't it illegal to pollute the earth?
I would end global warming. It's affecting our planet's well-being, and the planet's well-being affects us.
Well, there you go. There we go. How are we gonna end global warming? I don't know. We just fucking end it. How are you gonna solve global warming, little girl? Well, it's that simple, Bobby. We're just gonna end it. Great plan, Kate. Great plan.
I would make all gas-powered vehicles electric.
I live in Florida, and we get a lot of hurricanes. Is this
Welcome to Florida, kid.
because of climate change?
No, it's because you live in fucking Florida.
The air we breathe, the water we drink, and the planet we live on are front and center on the minds of our young population.
You sure about
So
that?
far this year, there have been 25 named hurricanes. Over 4 million acres of land have burned in California wildfires.
Okay.
And Flint, Michigan's drinking water is still one of the most closely watched in the country. It's clear. Kids want answers from our leaders about the environment. But since time is running out, they're taking matters into their own hands. I want to introduce you to 4 activists who are making a lot of noise and progress when it comes to the environment. Our first guest became known as Little Miss Flint after she wrote a letter to the then President Barack Obama, drawing attention to the lack of clean water in her hometown. Thanks for joining me, Mari Kopany. What is the latest on the Flint water crisis?
So the latest would have to be the water is still not fixed here. Like, it's still contaminated. It still has lead.
Now, you started out by giving out water bottles, but then I guess you realized that it could be kind of more harmful. So how have you shifted your focus?
So I have given out over 1 million bottles of water, but some of the people inside my hometown weren't taking responsibility over the water bottles. So then I stopped doing bottled water. Now I have my very own water filter that will be shipped out all.
Holy shit, this brat is selling water filters now. She's selling water filters now. Holy shit. Oof, Alex Jones, buddy. Sounds like you got some competition there. Oh my God. Holy shit. She's selling fucking water filters now. And I guarantee she's keeping the fucking profits. Because I sure shit would. I sure shit would. Oh, man.
All over the country.
Oh my gosh, this is amazing. What are some other places other than Flint that this is going to be going to?
There's bad water everywhere. Just people don't recognize it because they think that since they're a different state, they don't have bad water.
It would be better if there was actual access everywhere to just good water that you didn't have to question. I want to bring in climate activist Supriya Patel, who says she felt the true impacts of climate change when the Camp Fire broke out in California just 2 hours from where she lives. Out of all of these issues that are affecting your generation right now, why did you decide to tackle the climate crisis?
I decided to tackle the climate crisis because it's impacting me here at home in California, and because as a young person, the climate crisis represents one of the greatest existential threats to my entire generation.
So Priya, you were able to get your local municipality to declare a climate emergency and work towards carbon neutrality by 2030. I mean, that's first of all incredible. And secondly, what was it like to see your hard work pay off in that way?
It was insane. We've had 2 successful climate emergency declaration campaigns here in Sacramento with our municipality and our city, and we're currently working to encourage Sacramento County.
Now I want you to pay very close attention after I hit play again, because one of my favorite parts in this fucking video is about to show up. And you are going to fucking love this. I sure as shit did when I watched this on TV last night. And I couldn't fucking believe that they allowed this to happen. But just wait. I'm probably going to pause it anyway, but just wait. You're going to see what I mean very, very soon. And the fact that Nickelodeon actually allowed this shit to be shown on their fucking kids' TV special is just amazing.
Where I live, to declare a similar emergency. But it's just really amazing to see all of our hard work pay off.
Holy shit, I guess they learned their lesson. I guess they learned their lesson. They blurred out the sign. If you look really closely, there's a sign over there that's been blurred out. And what it says on that sign is, and I quote, "Shit is so bad, I literally had to skip out on an Area 51 raid." Now, when I saw this on TV last night, no joke, you could actually see that. You could actually see the words, "Shit so bad, I literally had to skip out on an Area 51 raid." And fucking Nickelodeon, after all of the editing, after everything they had to do with it, after all that, decided, fuck it, let's keep that in, 'cause why not? Just, if you would have saw what I have seen last night, when I first watched this shit on TV, you'd be laughing.
And it's a reminder of how far we still have to go.
I appreciate you for doing the work, because that's why voting and why using our voice isn't just awesome, but it's also a responsibility. We have to do the work to know how to activate it in the right way. And I love that. I love how you were able to pull that off. Congrats. Our next 2 guests are a little older, but not by much. I'd like to bring in 17-year-old Ananya Singh, who continues to lobby politicians to support a fossil fuel moratorium. Also, Jerome Foster II, who fought and won to have his hometown of Washington, D.C. pass the Clean Energy D.C. Act. Welcome, Jerome. Welcome, Ananya. When we think about activism, we think about protests and marching in the street, but what's another way that you can make an impact and get your word out?
I think it's amazing to get on the streets, but then we also need to be following up with demands to our legislators. Once you get your foot in the door and you start writing to your legislators and giving them phone calls, you can see that your voice really is important to be listened to. We totally have that right. to make demands and to follow up on them.
As an environmental activist, a lot of my work from middle school to early high school.
Kid, you're not an environmental activist. You're just doing this for pussy. Let's get real here. Okay, let's just read these signs real quick. Warning, more protests ahead. Climate strike. Racial justice equals climate justice. Black trans lives matter. Oh boy. Yeah, they're gonna fucking succeed with what they want. Down with fossil fuels and down with capitalism. Up racial justice and black trans lives.
Has been like talking to people about the science and getting people to understand that 97% of scientists all around the world agree that climate change is here and that it's man-made.
I want to play you a portion of the vice presidential debate. Vice President Pence was asked if man-made climate change made wildfires bigger and hotter and hurricanes more deadly. Let's listen to his answer.
With regard to wildfires, President Trump and I believe that forest management has to be front and center, and even Governor Gavin Newsom from your state has agreed we've got to work on forest management. And with regard to hurricanes, the National Oceanic Administration tells us that actually as difficult as they are,
Thank you, Vice President.
there are no more hurricanes today than there were 100 years ago.
Now, Jerome, if you were speaking to young people at a climate change rally, what would you tell them about the vice president's statement?
That is a complete lie, honestly, because people's lives are being uprooted by wildfires, and we are seeing a lot more hurricanes than before. When we look at American politics...
How would you know? How would you know? You don't live in fucking Florida or any of these places where hurricanes are always happening. How would you know? Have you been reading the fucking studies that Pence has been reading, kid? I don't think so.
It's about trying to preserve a narrative of normalcy and not really tackle and make bold solutions to protect our future.
I completely agree, and those are the kinds of things we need to be talking about internationally, not arguing back and forth about what's real and what's not.
It's a blatant disregard for the science, and the amount of lives that are lost
My science!
every year just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. We can't have leaders like that who are just discounting millions of lives.
How would you like to see government officials tackle the climate crisis?
Yeah, I would love to see them do things like declare climate emergencies, just like Supriya said in Sacramento. Also feel the same urgency that I feel and other young activists feel, because we feel like, it's really our lives are on the line.
We're going to be the people that are living on this planet for the next 50 to 60 years, and we want to have that fresh air. We want to be able to see snow. We want to be able to see those things that we love, that our parents...
Okay, so fossil fuel industry and capitalism bad, seeing the snow good? Okay, kid.
got to enjoy that we want to enjoy as well.
In our minds, it feels so simple, right? We just want them to get on the same page with us. What do you want to see in the new leaders of tomorrow, in such positions as the president?
I just want to see action. I want to see two and done.
Fair enough. Supriya?
I would love to see action on the climate crisis from our leaders, and I would love to see them put people above profit. Their pocketbooks are not more important than my future.
Remember now, boys and girls, the people in snow are more important than capitalism. Capitalism bad.
And the fossil fuel industry is not more important than my entire generation.
Oof.
The future generation is more important than capitalism and money. Capitalism bad.
That's a word. What about you, Ananya?
Act with a lot of urgency around the climate crisis, and also really making sure that we're having just solutions to these problems.
With COVID-19, we have seen the federal government mobilize like we haven't seen before. As climate activists, we had a National Climate Lobby Day in 2019. We went into over 300 elected officials' office and said, hey, can you protect our future to establish new legislation? They said, well, government can't really work that fast. Well, now you have a proven track record. Look at the roadmap for COVID-19 and figure out how we can do that proactively for the climate crisis.
Mari, I'm coming back to you. What can you say to kids who are afraid to speak up or feel like they're too young to get started?
If I started at 8, then you can start super soon. Like, it's not that hard. You just gotta get a voice and not be scared and just use your voice and speak up about opinions that matter.
This was incredible. This was just so awesome. I really want to thank you guys. Thank all of you, Mari, Supriya, Ananya, and Jerome. We appreciate you for being here and speaking with us today.
There's been a lot of confusion on how to vote.
What are all the ways to vote?
Voting in person is the most traditional way of voting. On the first Tuesday after November 1st, people go to the polls to vote. Polls are registered voting sites, like libraries, churches, or middle schools. You wait in line until it's your turn, then they check to see if you're registered, and that's it. You go into a booth and cast your vote. But this year, because of the coronavirus, people will be maintaining social distancing, wearing masks, and taking other precautions. Early voting is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. That whole process we just talked about, you do the exact same thing, just before the official election day. Voting by mail is basically like voting from your house and then dropping the ballot off in the mail. And because of the COVID-19 pandemic, voting by mail is even easier this year.
They really want to hammer the point home that early voting and voting in by mail is really cool. It's really cool and based.
In most states, all you have to do is request a mail-in ballot. Others automatically send them. But the good thing is, there's no line in your house. In some states, you can also drop your ballot off at an authorized drop box, which can be a sure way of getting it delivered. But not all states have them, and not all states that do make them easily accessible. Of course, you can always just put your ballot back in the mail. What's the difference between absentee voting and voting by mail? Not much, really. Absentee voting is used by people who can't make it to the polls in their state on election day. That's it. Those are all the ways to vote. It doesn't matter how you vote. What matters is that you do.
Hey guys, I'm Miranda Cosgrove, and this is my buddy Maud, and we're just here to remind you to tell your parents to vote.
Whoever can vote, make sure that they do. Now more than ever, it is essential that we all come together and recognize that every single person's voice and vote matters.
Encouraging each one of you to stay engaged, keep thinking about what it's going to take to change our world for the better, and how you can get involved.
Use your voice no matter how old you are.
Alright, the climate shit is over. Now, we're gonna get into the meat and potatoes of this shit show. Actually, you know what? No, not the meat and potatoes. We're gonna get into the dessert portion of this fucking special. My favorite part. The part where we get kids woke on Black Lives Matter and racial equality and all that shit.
He's a balloon dog come to life. Sit, Squeaky. He does lots of tricks. Roll over, Squeaky. He's the balloon dog who's pumped to play. Squeaky's battery's not included.
In the midst of a health pandemic, another important issue affecting so many in this country came to the surface: racial equality. Following the killings of unarmed black people, scores of folks took to the...
You mean, criminals. Unarmed, maybe. But criminals. They tried to start some shit with cops. They tried to hurt cops. Assault cops. Okay? They're not innocent. They aren't. For fuck's sakes, one black guy. They're trying to arrest this one black guy for raping a woman. They were trying to arrest him. And what does he do? He takes out a gun and he fucking shoots himself in the head. And they're still fucking protesting police brutality after all that shit.
Streets saying enough is enough. The impact of the coronavirus was also felt along racial lines as a result of legacies of inequality. A lot of you had questions for the
You heard it here, folks. COVID-19 is racist.
candidates about what their plans are about racial equality.
How will you respond to the Black Lives Matter movement and help solve racism toward...
Well, it's that simple. Let's label them a terrorist organization and really put the hammer down on these fucking bastards. That's what these politicians are gonna do with Black Lives Matter. You honestly think these fucking politicians are gonna support them? No. They're fucking useful idiots. That's what Black Lives Matter and Antifa always has been. Useful attack dogs for those in power. And the minute they're no longer useful, or the minute Black Lives Matter and Antifa starts attacking them, that's when they're gonna get labeled a terrorist organization. That's when the United States government is gonna start cracking down hard on Black Lives Matter and Antifa. So you fucking wait.
African Americans and other races.
What are you going to do for your presidency to help us black people, since we've been suffering a little bit since 2020 began?
How are you going to have everyone get treated equally?
How would you tackle the issue of police brutality and racism in America if...
Nothing. No one's gonna do a damn thing about this quote-unquote police brutality. No one is. I mean, don't get me wrong, they can talk a big game about, defund the police all they want, but they ain't gonna do it. None of these fucking politicians are gonna do a damn thing to put an end to this quote-unquote police brutality bullshit. Okay? Fucking kids.
You were re-elected and got your second term.
We'd like to introduce you to a group of young activists who believe that learning about this country's past can...
Not seeing any white people on that panel. For a panel discussing, anti-racism and Black Lives Matter and ways, we could stop being racist in this country. Not seeing a single white person on that fucking panel. Unless you count the white woman with the fucking towel on her head. But other than that, yeah. Not seeing any white people, discussing how we could put an end to the big bad racism man.
Inform our choices for the future. Now, Nolan, wow, you're just 8 years old and you organized your own BLM protest?
Me?
Okay, first off, he didn't do shit. Mommy was the one that organized it all. He's just a poster child for this fucking protest. This kid that you see here, he did not do shit. You want to know who really did everything? That was Mommy. That was the white liberal lady you see before you. Mommy did everything. Noah here did jack shit.
And my family went to a Black Lives Matter march, and I spoke back into a microphone, and I said, "Stop hurting black people." And I wanted to have...
That's an actual fucking sign. Stop hurting black people. Fucking love it. Oh, look at these kids. Look at these fucking kids with their Black Lives Matter t-shirts. Look at them. You think either of them knows what's going on? These kids are gonna be like, what, 6, 7, 8? They have no idea what's going on. Look at the baby in the baby stroller. You think that kid has any idea what's going on? Spoiler alert, she fucking doesn't.
my own march because I wanted to hear other kids share their feelings.
Do you remember how many people attended?
Well, I thought there was going to be 15 or 10, but there was more than 700 people.
Oh my gosh! And Kristen, Mom, you're here.
700 people actually went to this fucking rally that this 8-year-old kid supposedly put together. Let that sink in. 700 people went to this fucking Black Lives Matter rally. This fucking Black Lives Matter protest that was supposedly organized by this 8-year-old kid. Okay, buddy, whatever you say.
Here, you helped Nolan organize the march. Why was it important for you?
Well, as a white mom to a biracial child, I know that his reality moving forward in this world is...
How much you want to bet that the daddy here isn't in the picture? I'm not seeing daddy anywhere at all. Where's daddy at, kid? Where's your daddy at? This is a big moment for you. You supposedly at least organized your very first Black Lives Matter rally. Where's daddy? Where's your dad at? Do you even know who your dad is? I don't think you do, kid. I don't think you do.
Going to be very different from the one that myself and my husband experienced as youth. And so we know that we need to prepare them for what's to come. Something that he says, too, is that when adults see kids doing it, then hopefully they realize that they can make a change, too.
How did you jump into that conversation of even explaining something like that?
You know, it started with a lot of reading and learning.
There you go. There you go. She force-fed the shit. She force-fed this Black Lives Matter propaganda into this fucking kid. She force-fed this shit into her son. Okay? Up until mommy started force-feeding this Black Lives Matter shit into her kid. Okay? Up until that moment, this kid didn't give a shit. The kid didn't give a shit about Black Lives Matter. This kid was more interested in being a kid. This kid was more interested in sitting on his ass playing Fortnite and watching cartoons and doing other shit kids do than giving a shit about Black Lives Matter. And because mommy force-fed this Black Lives Matter propaganda into his fucking, head there, now all of a sudden he cares. Kind of makes you wonder what's going to happen to little Noah here in 10 years. You think he's going to realize that it's all bullshit? You think 10 years down the line, if they ever do one of those Where Are They Now specials, we're going to see Noah in a MAGA hat? I think we might. I really wouldn't be surprised. I really wouldn't. Because that's going to be the end result of mommy force-feeding him this shit.
And talking to a lot of people of color and trusting their lived experiences, because I don't have those experiences, and so I knew that I needed to listen first and foremost, and then take what they told to me and what I read and give it to my son and my daughter as well.
How did you feel, Nolan, when your mom kind of started speaking to you about, race or color or how people may feel about something like that?
Even though that we're skin is different color, we should be treated the same.
I feel the same way, Nolan, and it's clear that
Mommy taught him well.
What you feel at home, and I just love that. It's important, and we're glad that you have a mom and dad like you have, so more Nolans and people with your mind out there in this world. When you think about the president, what kind of personality do you want him to have?
I want a different president that supports Black Lives Matter.
17.
There you go. 8-year-old Noah more or less just said Orange Man bad. He wants a new president. He wants Sleepy Joe Biden. The man that does nothing but sniff kids and ramble on about corn pops. Why? Because Sleepy Joe Biden cares about Black Lives Matter, unlike Orange Man. Because Orange Man bad.
Zoe lives in Kentucky and started her organization, DICE, a month before the COVID pandemic put us all in lockdown. Zoe put together a school curriculum on diversity, equality, and anti-racism. And even during this time of social distancing, her message has taken off. Welcome, Zoe. What does DICE stand for, and what prompted you to start it?
In the time that I've lived in Kentucky, I have been in gifted education. As anybody who knows anything about gifted education, you'll know that there are not a lot of Black children in a lot of gifted programs. Issue got exacerbated in high school when the program...
Gee, I wonder why. I wonder why there isn't so many Black people in these fucking gifted programs you speak about. Maybe because in order for you to be a member of these fucking gifted programs, you have to be smarter than everyone else. Did ever once consider that maybe you just have to be smarter than everyone else in order for you to get into these fucking gifted program schools? Has it ever once crossed your mind that maybe the reason why there aren't much Black people in these fucking programs here? It's because in order for you to be a part of these programs, you have to be smarter than everyone else.
Continued, and there were, some students who were using the N-word just, kind of recreationally, and I...
Using the N-word recreationally? One of these big, fancy, preppy schools in Kentucky? God damn, I wish I went to that fucking school. Because if I said the N-word, Recreationally? Like this bitch is saying? I would have gotten suspended for a fucking month. I would have. God damn. I wish I went to that school now. I could say nigger, and I get yelled at. Fucking heaven.
Found myself just incredibly frustrated right before quarantine. I started Googling because I was like, surely there's some kind of diversity, equity, and inclusion training for young people, and I couldn't find one, so
Okay, so because she heard a bunch of some of her classmates say nigger once or twice, this bitch threw a fit and decided, you know what? These people want to say nigger like it's nothing. They want to say nigger as much as they want to and not get yelled at. Fuck this shit. Fuck this shit. I'm gonna force them to take a fucking diversity class. You ain't gonna say nigger around me anymore, buddy. You ain't gonna say nigger around me there, Jethro. You wanna say nigger? You're gonna take this fucking diversity class there, white boy.
Partnered with some people at the University of Kentucky and at Civics Unplugged. We created DICE, D-I-C-C-E, which stands for Diversity, Inclusion, Cultural Competency, and Equity. And our goal is just to make that kind of programming accessible to young people and something that young people can bring into their own communities and give you all the training that you need to bring that into your spaces.
Okay, I have to talk to our next young activist, Ryan. Ryan, you are 18, and this will be your first time voting for POTUS. How excited are you?
It's always been a dream of mine to be able to step into, a voting space and, punch in my ballot for who I want to see represent me as a young black person. I can't help but think about my ancestors who were, shot with
My ancestors!
hoses and set dogs upon them just to fight for their ability to exercise a right that not many in the entire world get to exercise. So I really carry, their work on my back, and I will use every power given to me to be able to vote.
Now in June, you organized a large protest in Missouri that made headlines. What motivated you to organize the protest?
I live in a predominantly white suburb, and what I kind of noticed was a lot of the, stereotypes and stipulations that came with protesting, especially in white suburbs, where kind of, they thought we were just going to riot and loot. 94%.
Which they probably did. I wouldn't be surprised if there's video footage of a boy here, Ryan, running into a fucking Walmart, running out with a fucking microwave. I really wouldn't be surprised if he actually did that.
Protests are peaceful, and that these peaceful protests are here to bring awareness and to bring about racial equity.
Just gotta remind everyone that not all of these BLM chimp outs of the past year are not the riots we've been constantly seeing on TV. Most of them were peaceful. Remember that fucking screenshot of that CNN newscast at Kenosha, Wisconsin. Okay? Fiery, but mostly peaceful protests. As the fucking reporter is standing behind a fucking building on fire, okay? Okay, those are the peaceful protests a boy Ryan here is talking about right now.
For Black lives to matter.